we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. It stopped her right in the middle of her conversation, but we will have that conversation on the air here in a second. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos. Of course, what's going on with Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there checking out all of our great shows, whether you're watching us on YouTube. Please subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live with another PCC Multiverse, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the state of pro wrestling, and more right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus, also as well on over 30 radio stations worldwide. And to each and every one of our radio station listeners and radio station managers slash owners slash everybody responsible for putting this on the air on those stations, we cannot thank you enough for allowing us the opportunity to be a part of your radio schedule. Plus, also as well, everybody that checks us out on our podcast outlets, including Apple and Spotify. Truly appreciate that. Also, as well, go ahead and make sure you check us out at the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Of course, Vampires and Vitae with Wild Beyond the Witchlight with the Wizards and Wine and whatever Melinda has in her evil mind upcoming, which she will let you know about as it hits out there. Don't worry and never fear. Also, please go ahead and check us out today, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook, where we cover the latest news and trends right there for you in a story detail. We bring you the latest and greatest news from the actual sources themselves. You can click on it and it'll take you right to the stories that you need to check out, of course, in the world of pop culture. popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. Always a great vantage point to go ahead and check out what's going on in the world of pop culture right there. And if you can, check all that out, all of Melinda's stuff and my stuff. It is sincerely appreciated. Plus that magical 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my good friend. She is the mastermind of all the undoings, redoings, and doings that are going on in the world of tabletop RPG land with, of course, Vampires and Vitae, which she runs with her husband, Robbie Ross. And, of course, everything that she does with Wild Beyond the Witchlight and Wizards and Wine. Please go ahead and subscribe today on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It is my good friend. It is Melinda Barkhouse Ross. And Melinda, we've got a lot to talk about today in pop culture, so don't shake it off. Shake it off.
I knew you were trouble when we
Oh.
sat down. I don't know. That's all I got. I'm sorry.
Okay. Funny, my wife says the same thing as well.
Yeah, for different reasons though. Different reasons.
Yeah, that's true indeed. But
Yeah.
we will be talking about Taylor Swift because her Eras movie, forget about the rest of the Eras tour for now. That's still got a ton of dollars yet to make. But this weekend, actually right now, as we speak, because it's already available in theaters in a limited run, is the Eras tour movie. So we'll talk about that and how many dollars it could actually generate. That's coming up here in a bit. Plus, also as well, PlayStation 5 is getting a slim model. That was announced earlier this week. Are we cool with it? What's the new pricing, if any? And attachments? Really? We'll talk about that coming up on the show. Plus, also, we've got some things going on in the world of pop culture, like Disney Plus rate hikes again. I'll tell you my thoughts on it. I'm not too pleased. Not that they did it once, but they did it twice in the same year. Do we think that's cool? We'll talk about that. Plus, everything that's going on here with, of course, the pop culture cosmos and so much to talk about as well, including a move by Universal when it comes to what they're expanding, what they're bringing back in a way, and why. That's coming up on the show as well. But first, my friend, the news gets kind of interesting. I will give everybody a SAG-AFTRA update as far as the Screen Actors Guild strike. After days of negotiation between them and the studios, it looks like they've even gotten farther apart than they were before. So they are now continuing on past the 90-day mark on the Screen Actors Guild strike. So it does not look like that part of the strike is ending or will be ending anytime soon. The writer's strike, as you know, ended a couple weeks ago, but the SAG strike carries on. My friend, before we get into the juicy details of some behind the scenes stuff going on,
Mm-hmm.
reported on, what are your thoughts on the SAG strike still continuing and looking like there's no let up anytime soon?
It's a bad look for the studios at this point. I mean, it was a bad look for the studios when it got to the point that, the unions felt that they had no choice but to strike. And you see on the news every single day another union is getting ready to strike, another union getting ready to strike, another union walking the picket line. And I think it's indicative of the times that we're in.
Mhm.
I think that it's really rough for everybody. And as somebody who was formerly a member of a media union when I was back in Nova Scotia, it was good to have that protection because you
That's
could
your union rep right now outside your door. Actually, he,
yeah,
he's coming
yeah.
back for more money.
Yeah, no, and please, I know that there's good and bad about them, but the one thing that is good about them is they're the people getting the raises right now. It's not schlubs who are going to, it's not schlubs like me, who just managed to land myself a contract and is working a little bit. It's Thank you. It really is just it seems to be just the union people who are managing to get raises out of the companies that they work for, and all of the power to them. Absolutely, stick it to the man. Do that. Get your dollar. Absolutely.
Get your
um
bag, as the young kids say now.
yeah, I can't be mad about them for standing their ground and not accepting what what these studios had offered. Now it's at the point where we see, billionaires, and we see millionaires, and we see people who are struggling. And I don't think that you should be able to become a billionaire if people who work for you can't pay their rent.
I will say though that it is something that is very sad to see that they're now even farther apart than they were
Yeah.
not too long ago. And that's not good for, most importantly, us, the viewers, the
Yeah.
audience, the people who want to see fresh content being produced on an everyday basis. And the problem is now that at some point in time, the well's going to start to run a little dry for these studios. And by the time they finally come to their senses and come to a agreement with the SAG-AFTRA union, it's going to be like, okay, you're going to be playing catch up, but that we'll not see the benefits of that until later in 2024 at the earliest. But for now, we're going to have some dry periods where there will be some content or lack of content that we're not talking about that we should be right now, especially in the broadcast television market. They're going to be hurting because they're
Yep.
already in reruns and of course, live TV, a lot more of that, sports. You're going to see a lot of that as far as those equations are concerned. Then for movies, you're going to see less and less releases or spread out over the course of the next year because of the residual effects of the strike. So, yeah, I think for most important thing, yes, of course, the actors, they're hurting financially, and they obviously have to go ahead and get a deal done as soon as possible. Yes, I know the theater owners and the theater chains and the studios, they're losing hundreds of millions of dollars hands over fist by not being able to continually put out quality stuff. But the worst part about this, the worst part about of all of this is the fact that the audience themselves doesn't get the kind of product coming out of the entertainment world that it deserves.
Yeah, and what and what I'm afraid will happen if this goes on for too long is that we will simply accept subpar content, because at least it's not another reality show. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Or maybe we'll just get even further into the dregs, sorry, of watching reality TV. I try to minimize it as much as possible. myself personally. I don't enjoy it. I think it's sensationalist, and I think that it's opportunistic, and it just reeks of bad juju to me. But I just hope that that's not what the studios, obviously they're going to have to depend on it for a little while, but I hope that it's not going to be something that they continue to try to push out once things get back to normal. I hope that we'll see these reality shows start to peter off a little bit like they did at the end of the last strike.
Well, I'm telling you right now that I'm a little bit disappointed that this has not been rectified as of yet. I do hope for the SAG-AFTRA union that they do get the kind of deal that they deserve, and that they do get to come to agreement as soon as possible, because the fan base needs it. The fan base needs it more than anyone out there. Some real good quality product, because right now we have all these choices, paying all this money for subscriptions, paying this money for cable, paying for the advertisers and all that stuff, as far as for even broadcast television. It just seems to me like we deserve a better product than what we're getting right now, and hopefully that will change around real soon. But yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. That's just my opinion. But go ahead. Go ahead, Melinda.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's funny, all of these people on strike, and then all of these streaming services that have done a rate increase. So
Which we'll
I
talk about here in a little bit, which really
yeah,
makes me. Well, you know what? Let's go and do it right now, because the latest uptick is a
yeah,
second price hike of the year for Disney Plus.
yeah,
This got me a little bit angry, because Disney Plus is, obviously Bob Iger got back in power and was kind of upset at the way that his previous
the other Bob.
benefactor, yes, the other Bob, actually was going ahead and out pricing things out of control at the theme parks, and said, you know what, that's not cool at all. We got to put a little bit of control on that. And then they come back and they're saying with Disney Plus, we're going to hike the price again for the second time this year. This comes off the news earlier this summer that they're going to reduce the number of programming when it comes to Marvel and Star Wars, which in the case of Marvel is not a bad idea, because as we've heard in recent days, as reported on by Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, that Kevin Feige is going to retool the entire Marvel TV landscape. When it comes to Daredevil Born Again, let's take that for example. They filmed 6-7 episodes of it. They hadn't filmed the full season or even halfway through, but he didn't like what he saw, fired the writers, let go of the production staff, and change the production staff to the point where they're going to put out something new and different when it concerns Daredevil. I get that. I'm fine with that, but the fact is that you're not replacing it when you're talking about Star Wars and Marvel, you're not replacing it with something that's just as good or watchable. Instead, you're doing something a little bit less for us, and you're asking us to pay more. That is what I have a real issue with at this point in time.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really appreciate the $3 jump either.
No.
That feels excessive, and I also, Robbie and I talk about this a lot, where I think in the
Yeah,
future,
pair
and
of new shoes. I think you're gonna have to get like the DVD version.
oh man, yeah, I'm gonna have to get that. I'm gonna have to get Beauty and the Beast. I'm gonna have to get Hercules. There's a lot that I would have to take care of if we got rid of Disney Plus. But I have this theory that, oh, not I, Robbie really had the theory, and then I was like, yeah, I can kind of see it. So now we have the theory that um it's going to be eventually a status symbol of being able to afford to get yourself a streaming service where you don't have to watch commercials. And I think that it's going to become so expensive that it's only going to be like a certain, level of income where you're able to find a way to not have advertising. And I think that advertising is going to be one of those things that just kind of takes over for how am I trying to say this? I'm not explaining our theory correctly. But basically, if you're broke, you're going to see a whole lot of commercials. If you're not broke, you're going to have the privilege of not seeing any. That's basically what it is. But there's a little bit more to it. But if you want to go down to brass tacks, that's kind of this theory that we have. And just looking at how it was only the no advertisement tiers that saw the increase. It wasn't
Mhm.
the tiers that had still had commercials on them.
Just to let you know that right now, that is Hulu going up to $18 a month here in the
Yeah.
US starting today. And then also as well, Disney Plus going up to $14 a month starting today for the ad-free tiers. That to me, I think is very sad, and I think it's very, very telling of where we're at the industry because the fact, again, with Disney Plus, they're not doing what I'm asking them to do is bring Hulu under the
Yeah.
same roof.
Yeah.
Just charge a flat $20 a month for the ad-free version, raise it up to that, but take Hulu off the air as a single entity entirely, unless you're talking about the Hulu TV version that you get the live TV from. That's a different story altogether. But the Hulu content you need to put under the umbrella of Disney Plus. It needs that content. It just needs that content now because if you're going to produce less Marvel, you're going to produce less Star Wars, which again has gotten you mixed results over the past 2 years. I get it, but if you're not providing us with something that is a watchable thing that we need to see, then you're going to have to do that because Elemental, that was a big hit for you on Disney Plus. You've got Bluey, which is on Disney Plus, and that has earned good ratings. Ahsoka earned solid but not spectacular ratings on Disney Plus. You need something to go ahead and entice the viewers each time and time out. And you just don't have it unless you bring Hulu. And I think a lot of the Hulu content that you're putting on there, like Only Murders in the Building, I believe you have all the episodes of Superstore. You have a whole ton of other stuff that you could go ahead and bring over here that Disney Plus viewers haven't seen and would find it acceptable enough to go ahead and keep for long term. Because right now, Disney Plus looks like a something that a lot of people are going to cancel simply because of the price hikes involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm one of those people who is like seriously looking at cutting the classic cable cord.
Yeah.
And so we were looking at like the Hulu live TV and all of that stuff. And if Disney, I don't know. We're looking at all of that stuff, but if these prices keep going up, it doesn't matter if you're going to have regular broadcast TV or if you're going to cut that cord and go with only streaming services. It's probably getting closer to amounting to the same amount of money.
Exactly. So if you have thoughts out there on the Disney price hikes, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Let us know if you're okay with it, if you're not happy with it, and what you would change. Plus the rumors of Marvel having to go ahead and change around their entire TV landscape. And Kevin Feige looks like he has his hands really full right now with doing just that. So please let us know your thoughts. Are you getting what's worth out of what you're paying for or now paying more for when it comes to Disney Plus? Please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's so much more to talk about on today's program. We talked about a little bit about what went on as far as behind the scenes, what's been reported on in the trade papers for Marvel and a whole revamping of the way that they do television due to the bad results of what's come up recently for their shows and the bad results in viewing and things of that nature. Loki notwithstanding, because we don't really know what the outcome is as of yet, because it is only on episode 2 as we're talking on this broadcast. So we won't go ahead into bashing or praising Loki just yet. But when it comes to on the DC sides of things, my friend, things got really interesting in a variety undercover,
Yeah.
I guess, look at Aquaman 2 with a lot of crazy things going on behind the scenes from Jason Momoa reportedly coming to the set drunk, to Amber Heard was going to be cut out entirely by director James Wan, but Elon Musk somehow getting in the way as far as that's concerned and demanding that his then girlfriend be involved in the movie.
Gross.
Yeah,
Gross.
it's just,
So
yeah,
gross. Oh, God, that's gross. Sorry, continue.
yes. So I'm just going to say that all the stuff going on behind the scenes, and then also as well, James Gunn, who is now heading up the DC universe, has said that all of the rebooted Justice League members that we saw during the Snyderverse, they're all gone, including Jason Momoa, who's going to be, recast as Lobo, possibly even in the first Superman movie that comes out here in a couple years. Your thoughts, my friend, on this? Because it just seems like we talked about the disaster and all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes for Marvel. DC in these times should always try to take advantage, but it looks like they have the same amount of chaos as well.
Well, I think that you know what? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's
Yes.
really solid advice, right? So I'm
Yes.
going to choose to not put my focus there. But
Yes.
I
Even though I know you want to.
so badly, so badly. But I do think that, if somebody is arriving to set and they are inebriated and that does get in the way of work, then a serious conversation needs to be had with said person. It doesn't need to be put into the papers. That's my opinion of that. If they are inebriated and they're showing up to work and it's not getting in the way of work, then it's up to their friends to say, bro, I think you might have a problem.
But we don't
Right?
even know, it's just been reported on and behind the
Absolutely.
scene.
Now,
He can't
what
get a break because they say there's people that say he looked, out of shape or a little heavy on the latest Fast movie. And, I'm like, my God, can we just cut Jason Momoa some slack here, please?
well, I mean, there's no doubt that because we know like him and his wife did separate. They are going for divorce, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So heaven only knows what was happening in his personal life when all of this stuff was happening. It's entirely
Exactly.
possible that our guy was just in a bad spot, and showing up to work and even being a little bit grumpy sometimes is enough to rub somebody the wrong way, which can lead to a little bit of an exaggerated story, which can lead to an entire fable, and then now before, everybody's eyes in the public, you showed up to work and you were smashed all the time. I'm not trying to make excuses if that was the behavior that was going on, but if it wasn't the
Because
behavior
Variety is
that was
standing
going
by its
on,
sources.
yeah, and if that wasn't the behavior that was happening, then whoever those sources were need to be also brought into the public eye so we can have a really good look and put them under the microscope too. So much of that is unfair that you don't even know where to start with it, right?
Mhm.
It's really truly unfair. And I think that if you're going to I don't know, if you're going to drop those kinds of excuses, or excuses, I guess, accusations is what I mean. I just don't see the point of you remaining anonymous. I think if you're going to, point a finger like that, I think that you should have the guts to stand beside behind what you said. I'm always a little bit um speculatory. No, that's not the right word.
Speculative.
Yeah, I'm always a little distrusting of an anonymous source.
Mhm.
Granted, anonymous sources can be right. Yes, absolutely. But if you're going to point and make those kinds of accusations about somebody, I just think that you might as well drop the anonymous tag and put your name beside it.
Shh, shh, shh. I have a anonymous source telling me that Vampires and Vitae is actually a really darn good show people need to check out wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. I
That's
don't
just
know
a
who said
rumor,
that.
but I got a
Yeah.
source that told me
I
that. Unnamed.
I don't know who said that, but
Eh, yep, yep. Yeah, rhymes with toss as far as
yeah.
the last name is concerned.
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah,
leave it
yeah.
at that. So I will say though that it doesn't bode well, especially because the movie is still on the way, as far
Yeah.
as Aquaman 2
Yeah.
coming out
I
in December. I think it again that's weird that this is a movie, the original made over $1 billion at the box office.
yes.
Yet I feel like almost like one of the PlayStation games, using a video game vernacular, that this is a game that, like Sony used to send out games, still does sometimes, sends them out there to die and literally die.
Yeah.
And I just feel that even though the previous movie did over $1 billion, it still feels like this movie has been sent out to underperform. And it just seems like it's going to be working uphill. And unless it gets really, really strong reviews, that it's not going to do as well as a lot of people hope, because The fact that where does it even stand in the DC universe? Because the fact the whole DC universe is going to even change. So why watch it again?
Exactly. They're just
Anything
gonna
with DC in the next couple of years.
yeah, they're just gonna blow everything up. So there's no point in watching a movie for any kind of continuity here in the next couple of years. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think Aquaman 2 ran into trouble the second that it was brought into that trial. And I know you know the trial that I'm talking about. And
Mhm.
I think that as soon as that happened, it was kind of game over for the movie, unfortunately.
And that's a disappointing thing to see. And
Yeah.
with everything that goes on, you spend 200-300 million dollars making these films, and that doesn't even go into as far as the advertising budget or anything of that nature. And it just seems like you're already these words, these things come out, the trouble behind the scenes, and Amber Heard and having to go ahead and still be placed in the she's barely in the trailers, and who knows how much time she's going to be allotted in the film. Supposedly there's chemistry issues between her and Jason Momoa. I didn't, watching the movie, didn't see that they were having issues or chemistry issues between the two. I just thought they were like, like work buddies at first, having to tolerate each other at first. Thought that that was their gig during, as far as what was looking like the movie. I thought that's the way it was sort of set up. And then over the course of time, they endear themselves to each other. And obviously a baby comes out of it, as we've seen in the trailer for this next film. So okay, I don't see an issue with it. But obviously, supposedly there's other sources out there, according to the story on Variety, that say that there are issues behind the scenes, whether it's personal, whether it's creative. Just seems like there's so much trouble going into this movie that it really has a really hard battle uphill in order to be successful.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a film that didn't stand a chance, unfortunately. And
Still might
it's
do well.
yeah, I mean, it might do okay, but it's not going to do what Aquaman 1 did.
No, I don't think so. I think if it gets $1 billion, I think it will be because there's just outstanding reviews in despite itself. But
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, and I'm very sad to see if that's the case, because I liked the first one. I didn't think it was a bad movie. I thought it was a fun popcorn flick for what it was, and
Are you
yeah,
kidding me? Permission to come on board? Sir. It was a great moment in that movie. And,
yes.
and now I don't know that I'm going to invest, 2 hours plus into the second one.
Yeah, whether you should or not, or wait till Max, we'll have to wait and see. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the stress right now going on behind the scenes for Aquaman 2. That was reported on by Variety, the trade papers, which also remarked about the battles going on behind the scenes for what's going on with Marvel Television. So I guess, in a way, Jessica Lange, who's recently announced that she's going to go, into retirement, and a lot of that is based off the way that she feels the industry is at with comic book films. And Martin Scorsese, who's pushing right now and doing all the interviews now for Killers of the Flower Moon. He has never been shy about his thoughts on superhero films. It looks like all those individuals out there in entertainment that are really been bashing the superhero films and superhero genre really are getting what they want right now. It's just a thing where the last decade was dominated by superhero films because that's what the audiences wanted to see.
Yeah.
That's what the studios were churning out. Now it looks like, because whether it through quality choices, storyline choices, or production choices, whatever you want to go ahead and say, this is no longer the age of the superheroes. As far as some superhero movies will still click, but most are not. It's just that simple. So again, it's an ebb and tide, an ebb and flow, where you have right now the tide is not working in superhero movies' favors, and that's great for a lot of people who don't like their superhero films or don't like those movies to come out, don't like those shows to come out. They're going to get their fill of other genres because that's what the studios are going to lean into right now.
Let me ask you this question.
Hmm.
Do you think, and
Hmm.
this is going to be a big question, and you feel free to generalize as much as you want. But do
Okay.
you think that globally speaking, the movie going public after a decade of superhero movies, do you think that we're really ready to go back into like Scorsese movies and heavy hitting dramas and thought provoking film again? Like do you really think that after a decade of just popcorn munching movies that we're ready to go back to more entertainment with maybe a little bit more substance? And please, I'm not dissing. I also love me some superhero movies, but I'm just curious. I mean, it's been 10 years. Do you think that the public still has patience for that?
Well, depending on the movie, there will always be a place for the popcorn movie. There will
Right.
always be a place for it, depending on how it appeals to a public. There'll be
Yeah.
their hits and their misses there. But when it concerns more serious fare, we've already seen Oppenheimer approaching $1 billion. It's over $900 million strong, and it has appealed to a worldwide audience. So, everybody is that's hating superhero films is praising the success for that film. In a way, almost as well Barbie, as because it's been a critically lauded film and it's also achieved a great amount of success. We'll see with Killers of the Flower Moon. I think it will do well. How well, we'll wait and see, but I think it will do very well. You've got another outstanding array of performances there from what we're seeing in advance words. So I think that the taste of the movie theater audience, the movie going audience, is now supportive of non superhero movies. We'll see if that continues, but that doesn't mean that superhero movies can't thrive as well, depending on the fact that they have to be good. You just can't factory machine out, put constantly out superhero movies, time in and time out, and expect it to work like we've seen so far in the past couple of years. Just the factory is no longer churning out movies that people want to see. It has to be a really good superhero movie in order to click with a large audience.
Are there any up and coming directors that you're, kind of keeping an eye on? Or it like, I mean, like younger in terms of like not a Martin Scorsese, but like an up and coming, getting their feet wet director.
That's a good question, because there have been several smaller movies that have come out that have achieved a level of success. When you look at some of the movies that have come out this year, as far as the really popular movies that have come out this year, when you look at it, there have been some surprises that have come out. That a lot of people may be interested in following those directors, because like Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. When you go to also as well, you look at of course Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Those two were expected to be huge at the box office and didn't,
Right.
unfortunately, get there. But then you have smaller films like the John Wick films. Chapter 4 did well again. So you could probably be looking at the John Wick directors to be someone who is going to be basically, getting their share of the load for those kinds of movies going forward. Or do they want to go ahead and graduate into even larger and larger flicks? So you've seen with the success of that, it's shown that there is a market for smaller movies. I also could say that the Insidious horror movie films, those films, I mean, James Wan, look at James Wan in the Fast
Yeah.
movies. Where did he
Yeah.
come from?
True.
And you see he still dabbles in the horror genre. So you see that those horror movie directors that have made some of the more popular movies, the more popular horror movies this year, they're always going to get some buzz, and they're always going to get recognized for their work, because the fact that they're able to do good things on smaller budgets. So whether or not it is Insidious: The Red Door, whether or not it is Scream 6, whether or not it is other movies that have made a nice tidy little profit, those directors are always going to get talked about. And Elizabeth Banks, who has been in and out as far as a director with her success, Cocaine Bear is probably a redemption for her, and it will probably allow her to go ahead and make larger films once again, because she's been given the opportunity. Hasn't always worked out for her, but with Cocaine Bear, I see her getting back in the good graces of Hollywood once again.
Yeah, for sure. Or at least a very specific type of audience.
Yeah, absolutely. But that will
Yeah.
allow her to do other projects.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Just all it takes is a successful movie, and you'll get to start doing some of the things that you want to be doing continuously going forward. But those are my thoughts right now, and also Melinda's thoughts right now on what's going on with the movie scene, especially what's going on with DC right now behind the scenes. Aquaman 2. Are you still excited about Aquaman 2? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you are, after all the stuff you've heard and the Variety Report on Aquaman 2, please let us know your thoughts. If you're still excited to go ahead and see Aquaman 2 in December, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we hit the 45-minute break, I wanted to go ahead and ask you this.
Hmm.
There's a certain little movie that's coming out this weekend and actually is out right now. It's the Taylor Swift Eras Tour movie. It's a limited run. I think about 3 weeks. I think it's what the run is going to be as of now. They probably or will or maybe extend it. I have a feeling they'll extend it if that's the case.
Probably. Yeah.
Probably. It's come out to very strong reviews. It's come out to $100 million in pre-sales. There's a very good possibility it could earn over $200 million this weekend at the box office domestically alone. Not even talking any international money that could be earned from it. Your thoughts on this? Will this be the movie to get you out into the movie theater? You said it could be. You
It
said
might
you
be.
might. You said you might grab your husband, a fellow Swiftie, Robbie Ross. You might go ahead and corner him, drag him into the car,
Yeah.
kicking and screaming,
Yeah.
saying, "Shake it off, buddy, shake it off," and you're going to
Yeah.
go ahead and take you to the movie theater. Your
If
thoughts on that, my friend?
if I took him to a movie theater and he did not have friendship bracelets to hand out, he would be so upset.
Okay,
He
because
would
there's
be
a
so
very real
mad.
possibility I may have to go because my
Yeah.
daughter and my wife have purchased tickets, but she may not be able to go, so I may have to go
No.
in her stead. So
Yeah.
there's a very real possibility I will be going to see the Taylor Swift Eras movie. Are you going to be seeing the Taylor Swift Eras movie?
I don't know. It's not because I lack the will. Well, maybe I do lack the will to get, put actual pants on and leave the house. I don't know. But I think that um yeah, I don't know. It comes down to a combination of a whole bunch of things happening. Robbie and I both having the same days off because that almost never happens. I think that uh, if it's gosh, I mean, I haven't been to a movie in like 3 years. Is it going to be Taylor Swift that gets me out of the house? I'm having a hard time swallowing that. And it's not that I don't like Taylor Swift. I certainly don't consider myself a Swiftie by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm sure she's devastated that I don't follow her on Instagram. But
Yeah,
I
she's devastated right now because as we're here, she's at the Kansas City Chiefs game right
yeah,
now against the Denver Broncos. She looks devastated right now in the
I'm
box
sure
with
she does.
Travis Kelsey's mom. Yeah, looks so
Yeah.
devastated. Hmm.
Yeah, she's very, very upset about it. And I think it hurt her feelings a little bit. So maybe out of respect for that, I should step back from going to the movie. But no, in all honesty and in all reality, it really does come down to having time off and which is so very hard to come by. And then having, the time to spend there and then the cash to bring to make it all happen too. I mean, it's a whole bunch of things, and I just don't know that Taylor Swift will be the one, but I'm not ruling it out.
I
How's
will
that for a
say
non-answer answer?
that's you have a future in politics. I'll just leave it at that. But I will say though that Taylor Swift's Eras Tour movie is going to do huge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
probably going to be one of the biggest releases of this year.
Yeah.
And just like the concert tour itself is one of the highest grossing, if not the highest grossing of all time when everything all is said and done. It's going to be something where a lot of people are going to go ahead and check that out. I know the gala last night because she's at the football game now, but the last night was about the opening gala for the premiere night for that film, and all the stars were there. Even Beyonce, who's had her own amazing tour this
Yes.
year, that's generated hundreds of millions of dollars in her own right. She was even at the opening premiere last night, so it was great to see the kind of support that she gets and the fact that she has so much support. People are just rooting for her, both inside the industry and obviously out of it. Just the sheer amount of people that are going ahead and I know there's a base that's not digging the fact that she's, might be involved with Travis Kelsey, whatever. That's that I'm not going to change your opinion. I'm not here to do so. That's your deal. That's your deal. But I'm here to tell you that, I'm not a Swiftie either. I'm not, a huge fan of her music, but I am just really to respect the hell out of her for what she's done, what she's built, what she's overcome, what she's had to deal with, and all the stuff that in her life, as far as what she's had to go through in order to get to be at the level that she is now. You've got to give her just a ton of respect.
Yeah, that's a lady with a no quit attitude for sure. To borrow from sports a little bit. She when all of the Scooter Braun stuff happened and she wasn't able to get her masters back and the publishing rights and all of that crazy stuff that was happening. And then she was just like, "Well, I guess I'll just go and re-record all of those albums and
The
release Taylor's
original
versions."
diss by Kanye at the MTV Music
Yeah,
Awards,
like
that whole
all of that stuff. It's just it seems like it I guess it may humanize a celebrity a little bit when we
Mhm.
see a celebrity, and I don't mean this literally, but getting kind of kicked around a little bit.
She's had some roadblocks put in
Yeah,
her way.
for sure. And I think that her ability to overcome them and, the interviews that I've seen with her and just things like that, she's managed to keep her sense of humor about it all.
Yes.
Which I think is incredibly important. And is she grounded? I don't know that she's grounded, but she certainly seems like she is in interviews. And that's something that I can appreciate after someone has amassed a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. And as Devotion said in the chat, she writes her own stuff, extremely
Yep.
talented. She plays instruments. That was said last night in one of our Lakers Fast Break playback channels that we were talking about. She was brought up, and people were, in the chat were respecting her and what she does, because the fact is, even if she wasn't Taylor Swift, the award winning 100 million seller artist that she is, she would just be one of those individuals that could play, just have an experience all herself, because she could play any instrument seemingly that she wants
Yeah.
and give an outstanding performance nonetheless. Even if people didn't know her for that, she's just this multi-talented individual that really has a lot going for her. And again, I'm happy for success. She's earned it, and it wasn't given to her. It was not nothing was handed to her at all. She earned it, and when she wanted to change it for her benefit and for her fans' benefit, she did just that. She went up against Ticketmaster and she gave
Yep.
them the middle finger. She has just done what she wants, and you know what? You just really have to respect that she's done always in the best interest of her fans.
Here, here, sir. Here, here.
There you go. And it is
Maybe we
coming
are
out.
maybe we are Swifties.
Well, I just got, a lot of respect for her, what
Of
she's
course.
done,
Yeah.
but I don't listen to a whole lot of her music unless it comes up on the radio in the background or whatever, or you're in a
Fair, yeah.
department store.
Yeah.
Actually was in a couple stores today that actually does play her music. So she's everywhere, whether
Yeah.
you like it
Yeah.
or not. It is Taylor Swift, and her movie is coming out. I have a feeling, like this. I don't know what the release schedule is. I haven't checked it as far as what is outside of the US, but there's a very real possibility that not only does she have a $1 billion live tour, she could theoretically have a $1 billion movie on her hands with this film.
Yeah. I don't think that that's a stretch.
You don't
I
think it's
really don't.
stretched at all,
I
but
don't think that's a stretch. No, I think that's attainable. I think it's easily attainable.
okay.
Look at how feral those fans went when those tickets for the tour went on sale.
Yeah.
They weren't feral. You mean to tell me that they're not going to show up at the movie theater multiple times to see this? Of course
Mhm.
they are.
So, Melinda, a couple good questions. And Devotion, your question earlier in the chat, I will throw at Melinda
Uh-oh.
at the end of the show. But Problem Child says, where should they start if they haven't listened to Taylor Swift?
Okay, that's a big question because I don't know if people forget this or not, but she did start as a country artist.
Yes.
So you can go back and you can listen to some of that older stuff when she was a country artist. I I probably was responsible for getting a lot of the Reputation album on the air, on the radio station that I worked for in Halifax. So I would try the Reputation album. I think that there's a really good mix of, like some vibe music on
Taylor
there.
Swift's version of the Reputation album.
Of course, yeah. I think that might be a good spot to just kind of jump in. You don't have to know any of the premise of the album or what was going on around the album when all of that happened. But yeah, I just thought that that was a pretty decent album from Taylor.
And just to let you know, Heavy Duty, the movie is out right now in theaters.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's coming to streaming, but it is out now, right now in theaters. I do know that there's a price hike to go see it. I believe it's $20 as opposed to the normal $5-10 ticket that you play depending on where you go. But I do know that there's a price hike involved in checking this out at the theaters, but it is out at the theaters. People are paying for it. It's $100 million advanced pre-sales, including my daughters, that have actually are one of my daughters and my wife that are planning to see it. Again, I may have to step in and actually check it out. If that's the case, I'll let everybody know on the show, Pop Culture Cosmos. But yes, it looks like it's going to be a huge advanced opening. It's going to be a huge worldwide opening this weekend. It is going to be something that everybody's going to talk about. And right now, she's just eating popcorn right now in the box seats at Kansas City Arrowhead Stadium. Life can't get much better for her right now, my friend.
It's an envious one, that's for sure. Enviable, that's the word.
There you go, indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on the Taylor Swift Eras movie that comes out? Well, it's already out. Just go ahead. Are you going to go ahead and check it out? Are you going to be like the millions of Swifties that are going to check it out this weekend at the theaters? Through the Wire says Travis Kelce needs to put a ring on. They've only dated like what 3-4 times. Let's slow down Through the Wire. Slow down. Let them go through the dating process first. Plus, we always know, Melinda, these Hollywood marriages or these entertainment marriages, what's the over under? 4 years?
Yeah,
3 years?
It's something like that. Yeah. When she starts buying real estate, then maybe we can talk about things getting a little more serious between
She
the two
just
of
needs
them.
to ask one of her besties, about
Yeah.
the Joe Jonas
Oh,
marriage right there.
God.
Yeah, and Sophie
Yeah.
Turner. Yeah, she just needs to ask her bestie Sophie Turner or her other bestie Hugh Jackman. He had actually a long marriage after.
He did.
So
Yeah. He
that
might have good advice.
yeah, he might.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so funny, those nondescript. I wonder if those nondescript bearded men, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, were behind her as she was heading to the arena, the stadium this time around. But
That was
who
great.
knows? Who knows? What's your thoughts out there on Taylor Swift's Eras movie? Are you checking out this weekend, or do you have your tickets set up to go ahead and check it out, or are you going to shake it off? Shake it off. Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, couple more things before we head on out. You're a PlayStation aficionado, as you were, and I'm sure you were excited when you heard the news that this holiday season, aka just around the corner, that PlayStation is going to introduce to the marketplace newer, slimmer versions of its PlayStation 5. I think it's about 30% smaller, a little bit lighter. It's supposed to have about 150, 175 gigabytes more room as far as the terabyte space underneath. As far as I'm concerned, I think from and low 800s, which is on the current models, to a full 1 terabyte model. Then again, after OS, whatever that takes, how much that takes up, it might be less. Most likely it will be less, but still, it's a 1 terabyte under the hood for both the digital and the disc model. It's coming out here in just a matter of time. The disc-based model, the slim version, is going to be still $500, but the digital version has been raised in price for the new slim digital version. That's going to be now, instead of $399, $449. Devotion says, please bring back the PlayStation Vita. Well, they do have a handheld on the way, but as we've talked about on the show, it's not exactly going to be its own console. It's just actually going to be a handheld streaming device streaming off your PS5 from another location, whether it's in the house or whether you just have it hooked up by Wi-Fi. It will not have its own devoted software to it, proprietary software for it, which is disappointing. So it's kind of looks like a Vita and kind of won't look be like a Vita. So that's unfortunately not going to be the case. But your thoughts on these slim models? We were talking about it, you and I, back and forth.
Yeah.
If you're so adamant on not getting the disc-based model, I would still suggest you have time, Melinda, that you
Yeah.
search out the $399 larger version of the PlayStation 5, because again, if you're talking about space, you're only gaining 100 and some odd gigabytes of space, which you can easily replace with an expansion card or an expansion drive attached to the PlayStation and save, use the $50 towards that.
Yeah, and I was
Or a
thinking about
second
that.
controller for Robbie if you ever want to
Well,
let him play.
I mean, yeah, if I want to let him play. But no, I think there's a couple of ways to think about that. I do like a slim machine. um, my PS4 is one of the low profile, like super
Mhm,
skinny ones. I love how it looks. I like the
mhm.
aesthetic. So would I do that extra money just for the aesthetic? Oh gosh. I mean, I've done more for less, that's for sure.
Okay.
So,
But you
it
can still get on those on the slim model that's a digital. You can, if you have buyer's remorse and want to make it a disc-based unit for a 79.99 fee, you can buy an attachment that would have the Blu-ray disc on it.
Now this was one of the things that we talked about because there was a survey on the article that I was reading about it and I was like, "Huh, I wonder what everybody thinks. I've got to be in the majority here." I'm not. I'm in the minority. I am happy with a digital only machine. I don't need the disc. And I am to my surprise, like 68% of people who replied or answered this little quiz survey poll thing disagreed.
But
I
they
was
see
so
that's the
surprised.
problem though, because when you look at the Xbox Series, people are saying, "Why keep the Xbox Series S around? It's a digital only machine. Why don't you just sell the Xbox Series X?" Because Xbox, as it leaked out, 3 out of 4 units that are sold in the Xbox thing are the digital based Xbox Series S. That's $300 cheaper.
Right.
When it comes to the PlayStation, everybody says they want the disc, and usually the $500 is still the more popular of the two between the digital and the disc based version. But when it comes to what they purchase once they get it, the overwhelming majority of the games that they purchase are digitally based. They're not going to the store and buying the discs as much as they say they are. It's what the groups right now, even on PlayStation, Xbox, most people are buying digital based games at this point in time. Let's say Call of Duty, Madden, whatever. They're usually getting the digital based version because they don't want to leave the house and just go ahead and download it onto their
Absolutely.
hard drive.
I mean, it used to be fun and it used to be part of the whole experience of going and, getting in line at midnight for the midnight release and, all of that stuff. And that
Don't
was
tell Red
all
City Games you preferred it.
right. Well, no, I know. And that's just but that's just the thing. I mean, I understand having your hobby and loving everything about your hobby and wanting to display all of the things to do with your hobby. I get that. There's a ton of RPG stuff that just kind of kicking around our house. I am a sucker, and I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but like these Starbucks cups, I will spend money on those in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Maybe that's the same. Maybe it feels like a collection when you're buying the disc and you have them on your shelf and you've got your little rack and you've got all your stuff. I don't know. Um, so I'm not saying that I don't get it, but I personally, I guess, am just not that far into fandom when it comes to video games, I suppose. I don't need to own the disc. I'm okay with just the digital copies of stuff.
Don't tell our friends at Retro City Games.
No, I know. I would
Shh.
I would never. I would never, but
Okay,
yeah.
fair
My
enough.
PS4 takes discs and right now it's funny. I brought the PS4 down here. All of my other stuff is in Halifax, but my PlayStation is here. And there's a disc in it. So I was like, "Huh, I wonder what's in it." So we fired it up one night and it was one of the discs. Remember the show Rome?
Mhm.
It's the first 2 episodes of that show
Oh,
on
wow.
DVD that's just in my thing. I don't have a case to put it in. It has to stay in the PlayStation.
So funny because you one of the reasons why you were talking about PlayStation, Final Fantasy, Diablo 4 is really what
Yeah.
you were going to go get into, and they just recently were talking about, they were alluding to the fact that as it gets closer to the acquisition by Microsoft of Activision Blizzard, as it gets closer to completion, looks like at some point in time Diablo 4 could become free as a part of the Xbox Games Pass. And I'm not sure that will go over well with PlayStation owners because of the fact that they had to pay $70, and people like me may end up playing it next year for the price of
Yeah,
$15
but
to
I mean,
$17.
I've also been already been playing it for a year, and if you were getting it for free on day of release, then I think I would have an issue. But
That
you didn't
might,
get it for free on day of
well,
release.
it all depends if Call of Duty next year become at a holiday season goes same day as PlayStation paying $70, and they get it as far as Games
For
Pass.
free, yeah.
That could be a game changer, but we'll wait and see. But what are your thoughts out there on a slim PlayStation 5? That's coming in the not too distant future. A little bit more expensive though in certain aspects for the digital only version. So be aware, if you want to save money, go buy it now as far as the digital version is concerned. But if you want to wait, there's a slimmer version on the way this holiday. But let us know your thoughts on buying a slim version PlayStation 5 this holiday season. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we head on out, two last things. One is the no duh portion of the show, in that it's been announced, or actually was reported on by various entertainment outlets, that because of the overwhelming success on Netflix, being that it's been the leading show for several weeks. It was just recently ousted as number one, but we're talking billions and billions of hours watched, or minutes watched, whatever they gauge it by. I always forget. I think it's minutes watched. But, anyways, it's been number one for several weeks. That Suits, a show that couldn't even really get the time of day from people because it was on the USA channel for
Yeah.
so many years that people just didn't give a what about it.
Didn't give a
Oh,
hoot.
yes, didn't give a hoot. Got so much love on Netflix that, wouldn't you know, the producers behind Suits are going to do something in the Suits universe as far as expanding that out and bringing that to television. Your
Yeah.
thoughts on this? Good move? No duh move? Bad move? I think it's a no duh move at all. I think that's what you need to do. The only thing, though, is they better not put it on Peacock. They better put it on Netflix if Universal is smart.
Yeah, I give it 3 seasons, whatever the spinoff is. It's gonna get 3 seasons.
Well, remember, Manifest did so huge on
Yeah.
Netflix that Netflix paid the bill for putting it on another season, one more season to conclude that series. And it did
Yeah.
okay for them once again because it was doing so well on Netflix before. So it did pretty good for them for a little while. So maybe Netflix can pick up the bill for Universal on this if it goes to Netflix, but it would be in their best interest to not put it on, of course, what I'm talking about in Peacock. It just, the Continental has not done well, or not done well enough to really move the needle for Peacock. WWE is not, just Peacock's been what it is, what it continues to be. But yeah, if Suits can get a revival of some type or form on Netflix, that's a win for Universal, especially after what they spent for the Exorcist movies. Yeah, that has to be something they need to consider. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll leave it at there.
Yeah.
But
Maybe it's gonna be Suits meets The Exorcist.
maybe, absolutely,
That would
that's one way
that'd
to
be
earn your money back.
that'd be something, wouldn't it?
That would be something indeed. But what are your thoughts on a Suits revival or something expanding into the universe because of the success on Netflix? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before I have you go ahead and let everybody know what you're up to here, want to go ahead and just mention, as a Canadian, and a proud Canadian at that, our good friend and fellow Canadian, Rob McCallum, who does the intro to this particular show, and also as well, you heard his hopefully if you're listening on radio and also is on podcast, you heard his great commercial for Mr. Dress Up, the
Yes.
magic of make believe. That's Mr. Dress Up, the
Yes.
magic of make believe. That award winning documentary, which is still selling out theaters in Canada,
Yeah.
that debuted on Amazon Prime, not just Canada, but all over for Amazon Prime this past week. It has gotten really good ratings in Canada for obvious reasons. It's gotten really good acclaim for those who are familiar with that, which again, just to enlighten people out there, Mr. Dressup was a he was actually working on the Mr. Rogers show and then went north to Canada to start his own children's program and obviously became very, obviously such an icon as far as Canadian children's programming. And this absolutely fantastic documentary, even for somebody who didn't relate to it, still found enjoyment in it, still found it fascinating, and still found it very emotional at the end. There will not be a dry eye for any Canadian when they watch this film at the very end. But your thoughts on, are you going to check out Mr. Dress Up, The Magic of Make Believe before we head on out?
Yes, I am. I absolutely am. And I just happen to have the house to myself tomorrow night. Everybody else is working, so I get a chance to sit down and pull out my ketchup chips and maybe some all dress chips. I don't know. We'll see how wild I feel like getting. Um, and yeah, and just watch some of those feel good moments from growing up and watching this guy on TV all the time. It was Mr. Dress Up and the Friendly Giant, man. Those two shows are just such an integral part to like the fabric that makes up Canadian television. And there's a lot of really fantastic gems in Canadian TV that have just never really made much of an impact south of the border here in the US. So that is unfortunate, but I'm also excited that a lot of my American friends are now going to be able to learn a little bit about some of the stuff that I have in my past, in my history from growing up, and part of the shows that helped kind of shaped the viewpoints of Canadians.
All I will say is that I was really happy to see how many stars
Yeah.
from entertainment world, from the Canadian, that are Canadian, that took the time to go ahead and talk about what went on here. And I'll tell you what, it was just really fascinating to see. So I will say, if you get a chance, please go ahead and check out Mr. Dress Up, The Magic of Make Believe today on Amazon Prime. But my friend, any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yes, vampires and vitae. Everybody is healthy again. No more COVID. So we're going to be back at the table on Sunday, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. I may be a little rusty getting the old stream fired up and rolling again, but hopefully everything's going to go off without a hitch. And obviously, we didn't have an episode this weekend this week because we didn't record last weekend. So we'll get back to releasing episodes on the regular here next Friday. And then I've got the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, The Shadows of Lurkovnia, the homebrew game. About to sit down and take on my third session in this homebrewed world that I have built. It's the first one that I've really tried very hard at. So I hope that it goes well. So far, everybody seems to be liking it 2 sessions in. So yay.
There you go. Absolutely. So please check out what she's doing today. Of course, right there for you at Wild Beyond the Witchlight with Wizards of Wine. Her new project coming out when she announces where you can catch it. And of course, Vampires of Vitae as well. So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And please don't shake us off. Go check out Taylor Swift's movie. Please go ahead and do so. Be a Swiftie, at least for a weekend. And here's hoping you have yourself a great